Is the world truly ready to accept the possibility that a single name, not a group, not a massive brand but one individual, has altered the entire trajectory of what may become BTS's most historic concert at the political and symbolic heart of South Korea? The question sounds excessive, even provocative, until the public confronts one fact that can no longer be sidelined. Hamish Hamilton, the director behind the Super Bowl, the Oscars, and the Olympics, never chooses a stage at random, and he never arrives without a purpose far greater than merely a K-pop concert. So when his name surfaces in connection with Plaza Gwanghwamun, a public space saturated with history, nationalism, and Korea's global representation, the cultural analysis alarm sounds loud. The announcement, first shared by the fan account at BT Squad Info on X on February 3, 2026, appeared simple on the surface. A post, a few photos, thousands of interactions, and euphoric comments from armies around the world. Yet, like many pivotal moments in popular culture, this one did not operate at the surface level. It worked on deeper, quieter layers, and precisely for that reason it was more destabilizing. Within hours, the post reached tens of thousands of views, sparked discussions across time zones, and gave rise to a question that kept repeating in different tones but with the same meaning. Why now, why Gwanghwamun, and why Hamish Hamilton? To understand why these questions matter, we must first understand who Hamish Hamilton is within the power structure of global entertainment. He is not merely an event director. He is an architect of collective emotion. Since 2010, his hand has shaped how the world sees the Super Bowl halftime show. An event that is not just about music, but about American identity as presented to the world. He has directed the Oscars, a stage where every second is scrutinized as a representation of taste, power, and global cultural legitimacy. He has been entrusted with Olympic ceremonies, international rituals dense with political and historical symbolism. In academic terms, Hamilton is a gatekeeper of global visual narrative. Therefore, when a figure with such a track record chooses to be involved in a BTS concert at Plaza Gwanghwamun, it is not an ordinary artistic decision. It is a statement. And this is where the narrative begins to shift, subtly yet decisively. Many initially read the news as part of the euphoria surrounding BTS's comeback after hiatus, a reasonable interpretation given the group's history. But readings that are too simple close off bolder analytical possibilities. Gwanghwamun is not a stadium. It is not a conventional concert venue. It is a symbolic space where political demonstrations, national celebrations, and Korea's collective memory converge. Every camera pointed there carries a burden of meaning. To this point, public attention began to narrow onto a single figure who, in recent years, has become inseparable from narratives of BTS's global dominance: Jungkook. His name was not explicitly mentioned in the initial announcement. There was no official statement placing him at the center, and that is precisely where the power lies. In communication theory, the absence of a name where it is expected often signals that the name is too large to be mentioned casually. Jungkook has long surpassed the status of BTS's magne. He has become a point of convergence between Western and Eastern industries, between pop and performativity, between idol and icon. Fan comments that began on a light note, including jokes about Hamilton's curly hair contrasting with his bald appearance in other photos, gradually shifted into far more serious discussions. Why would a director who specializes in world-scale events arrive precisely when Jungkook is at the most mature phase of his individual career? Why not earlier? Why not wait for a safer, more conventional world tour format? These questions did not emerge from a vacuum. They emerged from patterns that in recent years. Every appearance Jungkook has made in global public spaces has produced a resonance disproportionate to the duration or intensity of his actions. From solo performances to brief airport moments, international media reactions have revealed one consistent reality. Jungkook is no longer perceived as part of a phenomenon, but as the phenomenon itself. It is within this context that Hamish Hamilton's involvement has been reread by cultural observers, media scholars, and even the Western entertainment industry. Is it possible that the Gwanghwamun concert is not only about BTS as a group, but about how Jungkook is being positioned within the historical narrative of contemporary Korean culture? Is this a conscious attempt to frame a symbolic transition? From a third-generation idol to a globally representative figure standing alongside icons previously produced almost exclusively by the West? These questions feel bold, even dangerous, yet precisely for that reason they cannot be ignored. Hamish Hamilton is known for rarely speaking bluntly. He works behind the scenes, letting his cameras do the talking. Yet industry sources suggest that his involvement this time is different. He is not merely there to package a performance, but to design a visual experience capable of communicating across cultures without translation. And here, Jungkook, with his body language, vocals, and performative charisma, becomes a critical variable that other artists simply do not possess. This ends not with an answer, but with a growing realization that BTS's concert at Plaza Gwanghwamun is not merely an entertainment agenda, and the appointment of Hamish Hamilton is not merely a professional choice. There is a narrative layer being constructed, slowly but with precision, and at the center of that vortex stands a single name that is changing how the world views the Korean stage. If this truly is about Jungkook, then what comes next may be far larger than we are prepared to accept. Plaza Gwanghwamun has never been neutral. Every meter of stone in that space carries a history of voices seeking to be heard and power seeking recognition. This is where the people of South Korea gather to demand change, celebrate national victories, and assert their identity before the world. So when a music concert, especially a BTS concert, is planned to take place there, the question is no longer whether it will be spectacular, but what message is being embedded behind that grandeur. And the longer the public observes, the clearer it becomes that this message is not constructed at random. Hamish Hamilton understands the symbolism of space better than most directors in the entertainment industry. In every Olympic ceremony he has overseen, the choice of camera angles, musical tempo, and visual transitions is always designed to build a national narrative that can be understood by audiences across cultures. Gwanghwamun, in this context, is not merely a backdrop, but the second main actor after the human standing on the stage. This leads to a sharper and harder to avoid question: why does this narrative feel so aligned with Jungkook's journey over the past few years? Since BTS's group hiatus, Jungkook has occupied a position that is both unique and, to some, ambiguous. He has not fully shed his group identity, yet he has also not restrained himself from exploring individual territory with an intensity rarely seen among other idols. The global response to each of his steps reveals a consistent pattern. Jungkook is received as a universal figure, not merely as a representative of K-pop. In popular culture studies, this is a rare transitional moment, when an artist ceases to be perceived as a product of a specific industry and begins to be read as a cross-boundary symbol. Social media discussions that initially focused on the prominent name of Hamish Hamilton gradually shifted toward a sensitive topic. Could this concert mark a repositioning of Jungkook within the structure of BTS itself? Many fans reject this narrative as excessive speculation, yet digital conversation data shows that the question continues to surface, repeat, and evolve. This is not mere gossip, but a reflection of a collective unease about change that feels inevitable. In this context, Hamilton's involvement functions like a magnifying lens. Every creative decision he has made in the past has been tied to moments of transformation. He is not known as a director who follows trends, but as someone called upon when an institution, whether a sports league, a film academy, or a nation, wants to redefine its image. It is therefore difficult to believe that his presence at Gwanghwamun is merely about production scale or technical quality. Some Korean cultural observers have begun linking this concert to a broader phenomenon: South Korea's effort to reaffirm its soft power in the post-pandemic and post-mass digitalization era. Within this scenario, Jungkook emerges as an ideal figure. He carries Korean identity, yet speaks a global pop language understood in New York, London, and Sao Paulo alike. He is familiar, yet still evokes curiosity. If this concert is indeed designed as a cultural statement, then Jungkook is not merely a performer, but a symbol. Interestingly, to date there has been no official statement explicitly placing Jungkook at the center of the concert. This silence only strengthens speculation. In strategic communication, what is left unsaid is often as important as what is announced. Big hit music has chosen to let the conversation grow organically, while armies around the world fill the empty spaces with their own interpretations. And this is where the emotional tension begins to feel real. Some fans feel proud to see Jungkook recognized globally at such a high level. Others feel anxious, worried that excessive focus on one member could disrupt the balance that has long been BTS's strength. This tension is not avoided. It is allowed to grow, as if it were part of the larger narrative being constructed. From a certain perspective, this is a cultural drama inseparable from the evolution of a group as large as BTS. Hamish Hamilton, with his experience, is certainly aware of these dynamics. He knows that collective emotion is the fuel of major spectacles. He knows that a concert at Gwanghwamun will not only be watched, but interpreted, debated, and remembered. And if it is true that Jungkook changes everything, then that change does not occur solely on the stage, but in the minds of millions trying to understand what this moment means for the future of BTS and Korean pop culture. This brings us to a crucial point: the realization that this concert is not merely a celebration but a crossroads. On one side lies the history of BTS as a group that transformed the face of K-pop. On the other stands Jungkook as an individual now poised on the edge of global redefinition. And in between stands Hamish Hamilton, a director accustomed to moments where history and entertainment collide. The question is no longer whether this concert will be monumental, but which direction that monument will ultimately point. In the end, every grand narrative leads to a single pivotal moment: the moment when something long felt is finally recognized. Not through an official press conference, not via a written statement, but through a sequence of decisions too consistent to be dismissed as coincidence. It is at this point that the public begins to read Hamish Hamilton's involvement in a different way, not merely as good news, but as a signal that something fundamental is shifting within the body of BTS, and at the center of that shift stands Jungkook. There is no explicit sentence from Hamish Hamilton stating that Jungkook is the primary reason he accepted this project. Yet it is precisely the absence of such a sentence that becomes the loudest admission. In the world of global event production, the decisions of a world-class director are rarely collective or abstract. They come for a vision, for a single focal point capable of carrying an entire narrative. When all variables are examined, location, timing, scale, and global context, the name Jungkook repeatedly emerges as the common thread that cannot be erased. Plaza Gwanghwamun, with all its historical weight and symbolism, demands a figure who can stand alone in that space without losing collective meaning. Jungkook, whose image has evolved from a teenage idol into a mature global figure, meets that demand in a way that feels almost too perfect. He is the face of modern Korea, unbound by a single generation, genre, or market. In the visual language understood by Hamish Hamilton, Jungkook is a subject who is camera-ready, not only technically, but symbolically. ARMY's response to this emerging narrative has grown increasingly complex. On one side, there is a pride that is difficult to conceal. Jungkook is being treated not merely as a member of BTS, but as a cultural representative worthy of placement on a national historical stage. On the other side, there is an equally real emotional tension. Concerns that such intense focus could alter group dynamics, or even shift the identity of BTS, long built on togetherness, have begun to surface in ever more open discussions. Notably, big hit music has continued to choose silence.
No clarificativo, no denial, no reinforcimento.
This silence is not without meaning. In modern communication strategy, silence is often used to give the public space to construct meaning on their own. And the meaning now taking shape is increasingly clear. The Gwanghwamun concert is not merely a celebration of BTS's past, but a window into a future that has yet to be fully defined. Hamish Hamilton, given his reputation, surely understands the emotional risks of a project like this. He knows that every visual decision will be scrutinized, every second of footage replayed, dissected, and debated. Yet that is precisely where the courage lies. He did not come to play it safe. He came because this moment demands narrative boldness, and Jungkook offers that. Not as an individual separating himself from the group, but as a new center of gravity that forces the world to view BTS from a different angle. When this concert is finally held, whatever its format, one thing is almost certain: it will be remembered not only for its scale, but for its meaning. It will become a reference point, a turning point, and perhaps a source of long-term debate about what it means to be BTS in the next era. Jungkook, in all of these possibilities, can no longer be separated from the narrative of change. He is not merely part of the story, he is its catalyst, and here lies the greatest surprise of all this news. Not in the famous name of Hamish Hamilton, not in the iconic location of Gwanghwamun, but in the realization that the world is witnessing a moment when a single figure changes how an entire phenomenon is understood. If it is true that Jungkook changes everything, then that change cannot be undone. It began the moment the first decision was made, the moment the first camera was imagined, the moment a global director looked at one name and said without words, "This is the center." The question now echoes louder than ever. Is ARMY ready to accept what will be born from this moment? Because one thing is undeniable. Pop culture history rarely gives such clear signals before a new chapter begins. And when the curtain of the Gwanghwamun concert finally rises, the world may realize that what they are witnessing is not merely a performance, but a redefinition. Hamish Hamilton, with all his experience on global stages, seems to read this moment as a rare opportunity. An opportunity to capture transition, not an end result. He does not come to immortalize what is already established, but to record the seconds in which something changes form. In that context, Jungkook is not the conclusion of the story, but the beginning of a new way of seeing how a legendary group evolves without losing its roots. When this concert eventually ends, the cheers may fade, social media posts may be buried beneath the next wave of news, but the narrative trace it leaves behind will endure far longer. The public will keep returning to the same question that has lingered from the start. Why does all of this feel different? And the more often that question is asked, the clearer the answer becomes, because a single figure has shifted the center of gravity without shaking the foundation. That is where Jungkook's true power lies in this moment. He does not declare that everything has changed. He allows the world to realize it on its own. And perhaps for that very reason, the Gwanghwamun concert will be remembered not as a peak, but as the beginning of a chapter that has never before been written in the history of BTS and global pop culture.